If you're good at video games, no one says, oh, you're acting Chinese.
No, I have heard people say that though. Like, going on like a chinky boy with your game. I mean,
lighties versus darkies. So
what is this fucking terminology of being black or acting white? It makes no fucking sense, and it's destructive to us as humans to have that kind of mentality. I know Snitz felt strongly about that.
Obviously, you act white. You got tattoos and you.
Yeah, I know. I'm very white. I've got like a rock artist on my jumper and that. I'm wearing like a skateboarder belt and shit. So yeah, I'm mad white. It's a fucking joke. I'm obviously taking a piss out of people that would look at me and think that. Not for one fucking second thinking that myself. I'm fucking stupid.
Twitter debate that I had with someone. I was talking about the Whitney Houston thing, and I was basically saying, how people are so quick to judge. Everybody's had a drink. Everybody's smoked a spliff or whatever. So like nobody makes a conscious decision to ruin their life and become a drug addict. We got into this argument about it, and then the guy told me, you're obviously a reformed crackhead. I was like, all right then, bruv, cool. Yeah. And he went, see, reformed crackhead, and you're using terminology like bruv.
oh my god.
And he was like, you obviously think you're black. And I was like, so basically, in your eyes, being black means having a crack addiction and using slang. So what's your perception of black people for you to think that's what acting black means? Do you know what I mean? He said that I find it offensive that a white person would use language that slaves used to communicate with. Yeah, that was the killer. So I had to ask him, like, in your head, was it a bunch of black people walking around dressed in FUBU, calling each other bruv? Like, what the fuck? Like, anybody who's from any inner city part of London would know that street slang is across the board of race or gender. And anybody who goes to university, if you go to a private school and you're privately educated, regardless of the colour of your skin, you're going to speak in a certain way. So those things don't really apply. The person making those assumptions, it kind of shows what their view of black or white people are.
As if to say like every race has a specific characteristics. It doesn't even make fucking sense. And on top of that, what would you say to mixed race kids? Or would you say with kids that are Chinese, African, and maybe a bit of Brazilian in them?
So there's stereotypes for absolutely everything. That trending topic today, 1,000 getaways to die or something like that, all based on black people dying, and it's all dying from drinking too much Kool-Aid. 1,000 getaways to die, too much hair glue on a weave. 1,000 getaways to die, choking on chicken bone and all that shit. Stereotypes are an everyday thing, and everybody is affected by it. It's not just black or white people.
Because it's even like
stereotypes a lot of the time come from things that are inherent to environment. So sometimes those stereotypes can have an element of truth in them if they're coming from environment. But when you're talking about this literally the colour of your skin, which has nothing to do with your environment, that's when it gets, because it's like, Trevor McDonald acts white apparently. Because he talks properly. That's not the reality of what being white is. It's the stereotype of what being white is, in the same way that the reality of being black isn't speaking in a certain way, being uneducated, wearing a certain type of clothes. That's a smaller minority, but it's still pushed as the majority via quite a dangerous stereotype.
It's crazy because I know for a fact if I spoke to Trevor McDonald on the phone and then I met him in person, I would expect him to be white, and I know that's true for a lot of people, and that's just down to the stereotype of having a posh accent. When someone says you sound white, everyone knows exactly what's being said. Somebody might be offended by that, but I think you can't be too offended by stereotypes.
The connotation is that white people are educated.
I was going to say that.
Do you know what it is?
That's the connotation behind it. To me, it's ridiculous because the majority of people in this country live under the poverty line, black or white. That ideology that's being white, no, to be honest, the actual reality of what being white is very different from being very educated and speaking articulately and talking the Queen's English.
It relates to if you've dumbed yourself down, hence you're acting black. However, if you speak quite articulately, you know what you're saying, you're acting white. I'm just like, hang on a minute, since when did intelligence fall into, okay, I'm this race if I sound intelligent, or if I've got a degree, if I've got this, if I've got that? People will look at him as a black man and think, oh, he's quite intelligent for a black person. It's like, no, he's intelligent for a man who probably went to school and studied. If we're black, do we need to dumb ourselves down to be blacker? As long as you've got your head in your books and you've got a brain in your head, irrespective if you're black, white, Asian, then that's an intelligent person.
If, for example, you are black and well-spoken and you do things that might be classed as stereotypically white, a lot of black people who are not that would detach themselves from you as that whole...
coconut.
Yeah.
So it basically just makes me sick. When you're talking properly, they classify you as talking white. When you're talking like, yeah fam, wagwan, whatever, then you're extremely hood. What the fuck? If you're talking properly, you can be black, you can be white, you can be brown, you can be green, you can be purple. Who gives a shit?
If you're good at video games, no one says, oh, you're acting Chinese.
No, I have heard people say that though. Going on like a chinky boy with your game. I mean, Every kind of race, I think we have a set of attributes that we attach to them based on their race and that. I think it does stem from stereotypes, and a lot of it is just fucking ignorance. A lot of people just follow shit that they've heard. So if they've heard that, oh, this is how black people act, especially if you're not around black people, I can see why someone would say that. Not to say it's right. If you're not around black people most of your time, yeah, and everything you see on TV is like, oh, it's hip hop, a robbery, a murder, you're gonna paint this picture of black people in your head that this is what they do, because that's all the information that you're fed. Slowly conditioning you to believe that this is how this kind of people behave, and especially if you're not around those kind of people on a regular basis. So you can't counteract that perception and be like, hold on a minute, my friend is a fucking scientist and he's black. If you ain't got those things in your life that can kind of counteract those perceptions, then realistically you might take those perceptions on board. For the individual to kind of come out of that state of ignorance.
We've spoken about this before. Remember when we were talking about Top Boy and we were saying how stereotypes are really unhelpful, especially if that's all that's being fed. The thing with stereotypes, a lot of the times they are true, and a lot of the times people do fall into them because it's a comfortability factor. They like that. However, that doesn't mean to say that every single person is going to fall into that. And it's all about being worldly and about stepping outside of your zones. And when people don't realise that actually I can do this and actually I have done that, that's when they start thinking, well, you're not supposed to do that because only Chinese people do that, only white people do that. No, I've done that. There's only a small amount of people, not everybody falls into a stereotype. People that do fall into that are quite comfortable with that because it's a safety zone. People that don't fall into that, they want to see the world, they want to do more things, so they will kind of go out there. They won't stay in their little zone, they won't stay in the ends.
I'll tell you what's really dangerous as well, yeah? Hip-hop is probably the most influential thing that is seen as a black thing. If you look at black artists themselves, the stereotypes that they're confirming a lot of the time, when you're looking at the buying population of hip-hop music, it's predominantly white. You're almost giving an okay for white people to have those stereotypes when you're reinforcing them yourself as a rapper. A lot of the stuff that's glamorized in hip-hop, or you're putting it in the hands of a predominant white audience who, if that's what you're showing them black culture is, you can't really be mad if that's the stereotype that they then gravitate towards.
Yeah, he might have a point, but you can only talk about what you enjoy doing. So if you're a black rapper and you enjoy clothes, fast cars, girls with hardly any clothes on, you can't really knock someone for that. I could be talking about surfing, and if all my friends are into surfing as well, then that's just what we're gonna talk about. And then people are gonna like think, oh, is that all them black people talk about is surfing and fucking...
I'm not blaming the rappers, obviously. It comes with something above that is helping to reinforce that stereotype. A lot of the imagery that the rappers are pushing forward doesn't come from the rappers, it comes from the labels and it comes from the people above them. So there's obviously a lot of guilt within major record companies trying to help reinforce the negative stereotype of black people.
I don't understand, if you're gonna perpetuate this whole thing of like saying nigga, 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 nigga every time, yeah? What do you expect a white person to say when they want to sing along to your song? So they can't be detached from that. You can only use this word if you're from that race, but at the same time you're perpetuating that to people that's not from your race.
And you know that the large majority of people who are going to buy your music are white people and the lyrics are nigga nigga.
They do that because they know it's a surefire way of making money. Everybody wants to bounce their ass and dance around to this coonish shit that we're listening to. That's a damn shame because there's some amazing artists out there that do have a lot of positive stuff to say. I guess it's about the people demanding it, the record companies kind of supporting these acts to get it out there so that we hear, you know, bounce, bounce, bounce all the time. Actually, I kind of like that tune myself, so maybe I'm a little bit responsible for that as well.
I grew up in an era of hip-hop that was very different from today's era, yeah? So as a white person being into Brand Nubian, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, like, in order to be into it, you had to educate yourself to a certain amount so you would know why certain things aren't acceptable, yeah? Whereas a lot of this newer generation, there's only a very small percentage that might have educated themselves to their point to know why it's not acceptable to sing along with certain parts of the song. There's so many others who are like, oh no, they said it's alright, so I can do it. And I don't know why this really bothers me, but it really bothers me. Seeing white kids calling mixed race girls lighties, like the connotations behind that, to me personally, that's offensive.
No, hold on a minute. I don't agree with that. What did Snips just say? Are you saying that it's okay for a black person to call someone lighty, but it's wrong for a white person to call someone a lighty? If it's offensive, it's just offensive. Where it gets a bit wrong is when you start calling people half-caste. You don't call people half-caste because that's offensive, right?
If you look at it,
it's like calling you a whitey or me a blackie.
No, not even. If you look at it, yeah, the whole stereotype, a light-skinned black person is more attractive, looks more European. That's an imagery that the white media have put there to kind of give an acceptable face of blackness.
Snips says he gets offended by the term lighty. I just find it so frustrating. It's just another kind of way of making this shadism thing just kind of divide a people that's already very divided. You've got dark skin versus light skin, all kinds of madness going on. And when this shadism racism thing can go away, then we can all just double dutch somewhere.
If a white person approached me and said, you know, oh yeah, look at this lighty, like, I laugh. The reason why I laugh is because I might think you shouldn't be saying that as a white person, but it's funny that you are. But when a black person says, look at that lighty, da da da, I also find it a little bit funny. I might not laugh, but again, you shouldn't be using that term.
So if you look at the conflict between dark-skinned black people and light-skinned black people already, for white people then to come, yeah, I like lighties, I don't like dark-skinned girls, it's like, really? Like, when you hear white people re-endorsing that and talking about, yeah, lighties this, lighties that, personally, I think that's offensive. I'm sure that people using the word don't actually see it that way, but I think if you would understand why those kind of terms are there in the first place, it might make a little bit more sense.
But that's why you need to see the real struggle that black people face, because look at Barack Obama, like, yeah, he's the first black president or whatever, but he's not fully black. He's light.
Thank you, Jay. I've said this for time.
When I see a dark skin black president, Trevor McDonald, do you know what I mean? Like, that's why the struggle's really there. Everyone's so black president this, black president that, but what we really need to look at is the real struggle that black people go through, because people will perceive a mixed race person as a black person in the media, so it makes it easier for the media to make it as though everything's all equal.
I think it's disgusting enough to hear black people talk about, oh, look, I like lighty girls, whatever.
No.
But to see white people doing that as well, to me, I'm like, what the fuck?
First of all, there's nothing wrong with having a preference. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying I wanted to put that out there. Like, you have taste in it, so there's things you might prefer. I think it's a bit ridiculous to kind of completely rule something out. Second of all, we're all to blame to a degree with things like lighties or this is how people should act. Calling Barack Obama the first black president is a fucking disrespect to his other half. That's like saying ignore the white side. I don't mean like, oh, white people should be up in arms. If Barack Obama was just considered white, I wonder if there'll be uproar about that, about, oh, why aren't you considering his black side and that? I'm not trying to make this a black and white thing. We're all kind of partly to blame unless we always check ourselves. You can be behaving a certain way and you don't even realize it. So as much as you be talking about other people perpetuating stereotypes, whenever someone says the first black president and you ain't stopping them or pulling them up straight away and saying no, he's mixed race, then you're part of that problem is what I'm saying.
We like to believe that we're much more accepting and a lot less racist, which I don't necessarily think is the case. In America, they're more socially racist and possibly less institutionally racist, whereas in England, I think socially we're a lot more accepting, but institutionally it's still harder for people of colour to advance to certain levels. I think there's a lot more black people of power in America than there are in the UK.
In the States, it's a very different thing. If you so much have got one drop of black in your DNA, apparently you're black, and they've always had that since the beginning of time, which is why they refer to people like Barack Obama, even though he has white in him, as black.
Unless you're Mariah Carey,
exactly.
you can pick and choose when you want to be black and white.
It's not about, oh, disrespect all the white people, he's got no white in him. Irrespective of whether or not he's got white in him, in the States, he's still black. You only have to look at the amount of mixed race people that are in the limelight that they still call black. You got people like Drake, Alicia Keys, Mariah Carey, as fair as she is, people still consider her black, and it's only when people break it down in conversation, oh yeah, she's got this in her, she's got that in her, she's got that in her, and then it's okay, yeah, she's mixed race. Her, you know, it's weird and it's.
If Obama was our Prime Minister, he would be viewed as a mixed race
man.
Prime
Yeah.
No, in the States,
I'm not sure about that. Because even in this country, you see a light-skinned person on the road, you don't even know whether they're mixed race, you don't know whether they're from the Jamaica, they're just light-skinned, but people still regard them as black.
Here it would be acknowledged as mixed race.
I'm not
in
sure.
the States,
I'll go with I'm not sure.
Last 15 years.
Beverly Knight, Terry Walker,
Shola Amma,
Nathan,
Craig David.
yeah.
What's the problem if it affected 1,000 people to actually do something positive in it?
Screw utilitarianism.
What are you talking about, bro? Just ask your question. I said, tell me what's wrong with that.
What, if it affects 1,000 people to inspire millions?